Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another In the OT podcast for BetHubb Sports Blog.com. Today we are going to be breaking down the 2012 NHL Stanley Cup Finals. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes, the analysis, and the predictions, let's just step back for a second and summarize what I have done in terms of predictions up until this point during the playoffs. After an extremely rough start to begin in the first round, we finally picked things up here a little bit, going perfect in the conference finals, taking the Devils and the Kings in their respective conference championships, and now that brings the overall record to 7-7, which makes the Stanley Cup fairly interesting from the perspective that it will determine whether or not I finish above or under 500 with these series-by-series predictions. So I believe that the Los Angeles Kings still remain the superior hockey team here in this Stanley Cup Finals, and I will be selecting them to win it in 6 games. And the predominant reason that I'm going down this path here is number one, they're much better on the back end and in goal. You can argue that both teams are pretty equal offensively up front. The Devils have two of the best forwards in the game with Kovalchuk and Parise. I think that I would take those two over any of the Los Angeles King forwards, despite how well Dustin Brown and Anze Kopitar are playing. And, maybe Los Angeles has a little bit more overall depth in terms of skill, having the likes of a Richards and a Carter and a Dustin Penner the way he's playing, Dwight King, Justin Williams, Jared Stoll, all these guys playing on the second and third line. And not that you can take anything away from what these New Jersey forwards have done, because they've been phenomenal. Adam Henrique, the rookie, David Clarkson, the veteran Patrick Ilyash. So, I can't really give a massive advantage either way there, so we'll call it a wash. But where I think the huge advantage for LA, well, maybe not huge, but definitely a substantial advantage is on the back end, because I believe that they have the best defenseman in the series without even a shadow of a doubt, and that is Drew Doughty, a real difference maker, a guy that can contend for a Norris Trophy on a yearly basis because he has the puck-moving ability, the offensive ability to go along with his stout defensive play. And that's something that the New Jersey Devils do not have. When you look at them on the power play, they pretty much have to roll out 4 forwards and 1 defenseman because they can't get enough offense from that back end. And when you look at what the Kings have been able to do on the PK throughout this playoffs and generate more offensive opportunities there than it seems on their own power play, that could be a lot of trouble for New Jersey if they can't handle the puck well at the point. And we've seen them break down and have issues there, relying on a veteran like Marek Zidlicki, who's probably a little bit past his prime, or Bryce Salvador, who is playing a little bit better offensively compared to what he's done in his career. But come on, we know that the reality of the situation is that's not his true style of hockey. He's more of a stay-at-home defenseman, along with someone like Anton Volchenkov and Peter Harold. And the one nice surprise I've had is just Adam Larson. This rookie's played absolutely phenomenal after being inserted into the lineup during the playoffs, and I don't think that's a real shock. He was drafted 4th overall by Lou Lamoriello, but they don't have the guys that are, as good offensively from the perspective of what Drew Doughty can do. And then you can see it a little bit with guys like Matt Green and even the youngsters, Voyanov and Alec Martinez. They made some real good passes out of their own end to help get the puck to the forwards and generate a little bit more. So I like that. And then also, when you look at the premier shutdown defensemen of the veterans, Willie Mitchell and Rob Scuderi, I don't think that the New Jersey shutdown guys are quite as good. So I think there's a big advantage on the back end, and in net, as well as Marty Brodeur has played, I still believe that Jonathan Quick has been the best overall goalie throughout the entire year, dating back to the regular season. And, you give me an advantage in net and in goaltending, and the offenses are pretty equal, then that means the Kings are favored in this series. And the odds makers obviously agree with that. They're minus 165. It's a bit of a steep price delay in the series, maybe something that I'm not that intrigued by. But when it comes to betting on it from a game-to-game perspective, that's the way we'll break it down and make some money. I really like going on the road teams here. I mean, how could you argue not laying a short price on the road with the Kings, where they're in the midst of setting all-time records in NHL history with road victories, having won 8 straight this year in the playoffs and 10 straight dating back to last year. I mean, this is absolutely absurd to think that a team that was the 8th seed is breaking these kind of records, and other teams in history that have been absolute dynasties like the early 80s Islanders, the mid to late 80s Oilers, the Habs of the past, the Bruins. None of these teams had rattled off this many road victories, so you got to believe there's something just a little bit more special with this Los Angeles Kings hockey team. And when you look at the opponents that each team has played to get to this point, I believe that Los Angeles is a little bit more battle-tested, having gone up against a couple tougher opponents. They've gone up against the 1, 2, and 3 seeds in the Western Conference. You can maybe argue that Phoenix isn't a true number 3 seed. They surely weren't by points and probably from a talent perspective, but St. Louis and Vancouver were as good as it got in the Western Conference, and they just dominated them. It wasn't even close, whereas you look at New Jersey, and they barely got by Florida in the first round, and the Rangers series was a hard-fought 6-gamer. Yeah, okay, they pumped Philadelphia, but they didn't have to play teams nearly as good. They probably avoided what many people would have perceived to be the 2 best teams in the conference going to the playoffs with Pittsburgh and Boston. So they probably had a bit of an easier road to get to this point. So I think that also favors Los Angeles. And then also, when you think about it, New Jersey has done well in the sense that they've been able to adjust based on the teams that they've gone up against, who may have not been the most complete teams in the world. You see that there's a couple deficiencies on all 3 teams they've beaten. Florida was just average at everything. Philadelphia, great offense, lousy defense, and lousy goaltending. New York, great defense, great goaltending, below average offense. But now they're going up against a monster, which is the Los Angeles Kings, is complete a team that they have seen all playoffs long. They probably prefer starting on the road, and I just think that they're just a little bit more well-rounded, and I believe that they're going to step up in this moment here and come away with this Stanley Cup in 6 games. So that is my prediction here for the 2012 Stanley Cup Finals. We look to play on the Kings early in the series on the road, where they've been perfect thus far, and maybe take a couple of shots with the Devils back on the road, as they've had a better road record than they have at home this year. And early in the series, I will be looking at maybe some overs. Every single Kings game to start the series and all their rounds have gone over. It's a little bit more free-flowing. It gets tighter checking as the series is always move on. And both teams have enough firepower up front where it could easily be 2-2, and all you need is, doesn't matter who scores a third goal to win. So that's my lean there for Game 1. Once again, Chad here in the OT podcast, BetHubbSportsBlog.com. Make sure, guys, to come back to the website tomorrow to check out our full Sports Hub Central, where we're going to be breaking down absolutely everything in this series here with even more detail than what this podcast has provided.